y'all, it's Charlene from the Craftyartshack, and we're back here today with a collaboration video with two of my good friends. So let's get started with the video and I'll tell you more about it in just a little bit. Let's go. Alright, here we go with DIY number one. The first thing you're going to need for this DIY is a wine bottle. Now I got me one of those razor scrapers, and I found that it's the easiest to remove labels off of bottles, and then you use the Goo Gone to clean it up. Now the next thing I did is I painted my bottle white with Rust-Oleum Linen White chalk paint, and what you see me doing here is I'm laying down strips of tape to mark off where I'm going to put my item, my decoupaged item that I'm going to do on this bottle. Now here we see these little birds that I printed out on a napkin, and I did a repeat pattern, and you'll see a seam right down the center of that. I'm going to cut all of this out and measure it and make sure it fits my little space I just taped off. Now I'm checking to make sure it fit, and it did. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of rubbing alcohol, put it on a paintbrush, and fray the edges of my design, because I do not want this to be a solid hard edge. I want it to be a soft edge, and by doing this it causes it to have a soft edge. Now why use alcohol over water? Because when I get ready to use this, it's already dried out and I don't have to wait for it to dry. I don't have to find something to dry it, so it's just ready to go because the alcohol evaporates real quick. Now that we've got that all ready to go, I'm going to take those two color paints and I'm going to mix them together with some white, and I'm going to make a little checkered pattern. And if you notice, I taped off my bottle with one more line on the bottom and one more line on the top, because that's where I'm going to put my checkered pattern. Now this, my dear friend Kay over at Home with Kay, loves Mackenzie Child's checks, and I did this one for her. So I'm going along and just adding my little check pattern, and then I'm going to do the top as well. Now as I did the bottom, I only put 2 rows of checks, and on this top part I'm doing 3 rows of checks. Now you want to make sure that you don't push down on your brush too much when you're doing this, because it'll spread it out and make your checks different sizes. So in order to keep that precision, you don't press down hard with your brush. Now after that's done, I go ahead and peel that off. Now because I didn't completely wait for my paint to dry on my bottle, I caused it to have, when I pulled these pieces of tape off, it has some spots on it that need to be touched up. So I'll take my Rust-Oleum Linen White chalk paint and go back and touch those up before we Mod Podge our little design on. Now we're ready to Mod Podge our design on. If you'll take you 2 bottles of something with enough weight in it and sit it on either side of the neck of the bottle, that'll help keep this from turning. Now I'm just placing that on there to see where it would fit best, and then I am going to put a little bit of Mod Podge on and lay this in place and make sure I have everything lined up. Now it's best not to use your finger like I just did. It's best to use a piece of saran wrap, and there you go, you see me using it now. I forget to do it sometimes. Now when you get to the edge of that, you want to take a little fan brush, put some Mod Podge on it, and make sure all your little edges are all the way down. Then when you do your next piece, you're going to kind of overlap it so you don't have that straight line show up, and I'm just pressing it into place, and then I'll add a little bit of Mod Podge under the edge of it and place it down to make sure that it's secure before I start going around the rest of the bottle. Now I'm just going to take my plastic wrap and smooth it out, and we'll continue this till we get the design on it. Now after we get the design on it like we want, we're going to go around the edges, and I felt like it needed a little bit of distinction between the design and that checkered pattern. So I'm going to take my long liner brush, and I am going to make a line all the way around. And you guys, if you watch, I put my pinky down. That gives me the stability to paint that line with not as much, so I can make the line straighter, I should say. And if you practice doing that, it makes your lines come out a lot better. Now you guys, if you notice, my Mod Podge piece is not all black and white. I went back in with, I guess I lost the footage for that, but I went back in and took some, a paintbrush that barely had any of that teal paint on it, and kind of smushed it around in areas on my design after that Mod Podge dried, and then I Mod Podged over it again. Alright, we'll see the rest of this at the final reveal. Now today's video is the Spring Fling collaboration with my two good friends, Kay and May. So go check out their channels because you'll really like the work they're doing over there, and you don't want to miss out on these. They're doing some awesome crafts, so go check them out. Tell them Charlene sent you and show them some love. And let's get on with the rest of the video. Now here we go with DIY number 2. Now for this first DIY, you're going to need a spindle, you're going to need 2 of those little plaques laying there, and you're going to need a birdhouse. Now what I'm doing with my little spindle is I'm gluing it down to the center of one of those little plaques on the back side. Then I'm going to take and glue the top or the other end of that spindle to the top of the other plaque, if that makes sense. So you're going to need to make sure you get it lined up, and then I'm going to just put hot glue in place until I can get it nailed in with my brad nailer. Now what you see me doing here is I am taking and making sure everything is straight and level on all sides. I'm not measuring anything. I'm just taking that 90-degree square, speed square, and I am checking to make sure everything is lined up before I take my brad nailer and put this together. And I'm putting a dab of hot glue there to hold it in place, and then I'm going to get my brad nailer out and put brad nails in that, and then we'll be ready for the next step. There I go. I'm going to put my brad nail in. Now you want to make sure you move your hand down when you're doing that, because if it decides it's going to come out the side of your spindle because you didn't get it straight on top, then you need to keep your hand down a little further for that. Now after we get our little stand like we want it, then the next thing we're going to do is look over there at our birdhouse. We need to take that little rope out, and then we need to, this little hole, I'm not going to worry about putting anything in there because it's going to be covered. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to take my little utility knife and make a straight edge across the top of the birdhouse. Now that little birdhouse, I think that one came from Michael's, but they're only 99 cents over there at Michael's. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take me one of those little angels, and I'm going to take the wings off and clean it up, and then I'm going to take, now these are from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to clean that up, and once I get that little spot cleaned up, then I'm going to take that popsicle stick laying there, and I'm going to measure it where it hangs off just a little bit off the edge in the front. And so what I'm doing now is I'm going to cut it down, and then I'll place it over that. I'll sand any edges that need to be sanded, and then I'll place it over that and glue it down. Now I guess I didn't glue it down right away. What I did is I went through and I painted everything with Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint, and now I'm going to come back in and glue that little piece in place. And I painted my stand and that little piece and these little flowers. Now the next thing I'm going to do is take these little flowers and I'm going to glue them in place, and I'm going to secure them with super glue, because I found that it works better on these little delicate pieces than trying to put hot glue there. Now I took me another little flower, cut it in half, and I'm going to glue it one on one side and the other half on the other side of this little roof line. Then the next thing I did is I took that same paint we used in the first DIY, and I'm going to paint that little popsicle stick. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start painting my little checkered pattern that we used in on the first one. We're going to go back and do it on this one on the roof. So here's where I'm painting in all the little checks. Now my brush is half white and half teal, so I'm going down and I'm putting one check down and coming back up. Now don't push your brush down, because your brush, like I said on the first DIY, it will make your strokes be uneven on either side. So if you barely touch it and then don't change it, you do one stroke down and then you come back up and touch up that bottom edge. And you're just going to do this till you complete the roof on both sides. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my yellow maize paint, or this is the Lemon by Apple Barrel, and I'm going to paint my little flowers yellow on the front. And if you notice, I put that teal around the trim of the chimney as well. Now the next thing I'm going to do is take my little flower set that I have there that I painted, and I am going to attach that to the front of this little birdhouse on the fence line. And I've painted these in other videos, so you can go back and look at some of the other videos to see how I painted that. And then we're going to switch our attention to our little stand. Now what I'm going to do is take the teal paint, and I'm going to use real tiny brush, and I'm going to go in between the cracks, and I'm going to put teal in those, and then I'm going to attach my birdhouse to the top and put a messy bow on it, and we will see the rest of this at the final reveal. Now at this time, we'd like to give a special thanks to our subscribers. We love you bunches, and we appreciate everything you do for our channel. And here we go with DIY number 3. Now for this DIY, I took a little truck that I had taken apart from another project that had the two sides to it, like with those tea lights in it. And I saved the little truck off of it, the back side of it. And now what you see me doing here is I'm actually painting those little flower sets that you saw me put on the birdhouse. I'm going to put one on this little truck as well. And there's other videos where I show you how I painted it, but I painted everything first with Rust-Oleum Linen White chalk paint, except for my little flowers. Here I am finishing up my little flowers, and I just paint each one of them different colors, and these turned out so cute. I love these little flowers. They work great for a lot of projects. So if you see them, pick them up, because you can use them on a lot of different things. All right, now for this next step, I took a sign that I got from a lady that gifted me a bunch of craft supplies, and this was one of the little signs that was in there, and I took it out of the frame. And what you see me doing here is I'm marking an inch in all the way around this, because we are going to make our own border for this little sign. Now I did paint the sign with Rust-Oleum Linen White chalk paint, let it dry before I started this part of the project. I'm getting tongue-tied. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint my little checks, and I paint one on the top, one on the bottom. So this is going to be 2 layers all the way through, and I'm doing my brush half and half in the paint because that's the look I wanted. And I'm going to go all the way around the whole edge of this project until it's completed. Now once we're done with that, we're going to peel up all the edges, being careful not to touch anything with that tape if it's got paint on it, because we did not get, we're peeling it up before it's dry. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, she gave me another little sign, and all these things I forgot to take pictures of, so I apologize for that. And what I did with that sign, it had writing on it, so what I did is I made sure there was no paper that would peel off, and then I'm going to go in there, paint it with Rust-Oleum Linen White chalk paint, and then take my brush that's dipped in white and teal, and I'm going to go and paint all the edges of this little box sign. Now, while we've got the teal and white on our brush, I'm going to go through and paint our little truck with that on there. And my truck was painted white first with Rust-Oleum Linen White chalk paint. And y'all have seen me paint trucks before, so I'm not going to make you sit through this one. Now, after we finished all of that, we're going to take our little flowers, and we are going to put some hot glue on it and glue it down. Then the next thing I'm going to do is take 3 of these little cubes that I've painted white. I left the top and the bottom not painted so that when I put them on my little truck, they will stick and really good. So then what I'm going to do is place 3 of these little blocks in here, and then we're going to take this and we're going to glue it down to the top of our little box that we painted the sides of the smaller box, this one. We're going to take and hot glue that to the top of that. Now that we've got all of that ready to go, we're going to go back in now that our paint's dry on this piece, and we are going to take our liner brush and we are just going to go through here and put our pinky down, and we're going to take and draw our little line in. And see how if you keep your pinky in it on the painting for stability, it helps get that straight line. And you'll see I go up and start above that. The reason why is that way your paint doesn't look like you stopped and started. It's helping you take it all the way through, if that makes sense. After we finish that and it's dry, we're going to go and glue our little box that has our little truck glued to it, and we're going to glue it down to our checkered pattern. You guys, this turned out so cute. And what you see me doing here is I'm cleaning off all the extra hot glue that seeped out and the wood glue that seeped out from under the edges. Now it's time to put it back in its frame. So here's the frame, and then I'm going to turn that over and stick it in. Now you notice there's the sign that she gave me, and it was in this frame. Well, I just flipped the sign over and put it on the back side and then stuck this down inside the frame. And yeah, wait for your pieces to dry. Don't be the impatient crafter like me, because that wood glue does take time to set up. And then the next thing I'm going to do is place over the back of this a piece of cardboard to cover up that part of the sign and to make it look finished on the back. Then I'm going to make a bow for this, and we will see the rest of this at the final reveal. Now today's video is the Spring Fling collaboration with my 2 good friends, Kay and May. So go check out their channels because you'll really like the work they're doing over there, and you don't want to miss out on these. They're doing some awesome crafts, so go check them out. Tell them Charlene sent you and show them some love. And let's get on with the rest of the video. Alright, y'all, here we go with the final reveal. Alright, y'all, we're back from the craft desk, and didn't these turn out absolutely adorable? And this one too, you guys. You guys, if you like our content, subscribe. If you're not subscribed, hit that notification bell. That way you'll be notified when we put out new videos, and that way you don't miss an episode of the Craftyartshack. It also helps our channel out if you give us that big thumbs up and subscribe and share our videos, because it shows YouTube that you really like our content. You guys, we'll see you in the next episode of the Craftyartshack. We'll see you later. Bye.
Hello, it's Charlene from the Craftyartshack, and we're back here today with another video on some. Yeah, I was going to do the beginning. I was supposed to be doing the end. Charlene. Yeah, and I'm from the Craftyartshack. I sure am. We're back from the craft desk. Really? Subscribed. And those of you that are subscribed, we love you bunches, and we really appreciate everything that you do for our channel. And you guys, if give us that big thumbs up and subscribe and share our videos, because it shows YouTube that you really like our content. You guys, we'll see you in the next episode of the Craftyartshack. We'll see you later. Bye.